Hi, my name is Jennah Castillo, and I am a 6th grade teacher at an elementary school. Some of the duties of my profession, some are written, some are unwritten, include lesson planning, making sure that I am preparing lessons, whether that is weekly, monthly, or based off of units for different subjects. In my position specifically, I am responsible for planning out lessons for all 5 subjects that I teach, which include language arts, mathematics, science, social studies, and PE. So that is one of my duties. Another duty is day-to-day monitoring my students, making sure that they are doing as that they are supposed to, behavior-wise, academically. I also need to make sure that on top of that, academically, I need to be filling out grade reports, whether that is progress reports or report cards at the end of quarters or semesters. I do need to stay on top of my grades. That is a duty that I have to stay on top of myself. And that usually it can be after school or weekends, whenever I have time to myself to be able to do that. But those are just a few of the many duties that a teacher has. To qualify for this position, I did need a bachelor's degree. A bachelor's degree is at least 4 years at an undergrad institution. I did start at IVC and then in Imperial Valley College, and then I transferred over to San Diego State University Calexico campus. So from there, I combined all 4 years of my education, and I was able to obtain a bachelor's degree. From there, I went on to a credentialing program where I would be able to obtain my teaching credential. And in this program, there were a few steps, as not just with completing the academic courses, but there was also different tests that I needed to take for the state. So for California, at least when I was becoming a teacher, I'm not sure if things have changed now. It's been 5 years since I went through the process, but when I was going through that process, it wasn't just getting your credential and finishing your academic courses, but it was also obtaining a passing score for the CBEST, and that is the California Basic Educational Exam. And then there's also the CSET, which is a bigger form of the CBEST, but it has 3 different sections. And you usually need to pass all 3 of the sections in order to move on. And then there was also the RICA, which is another test for the state of California, and it is based off of reading. And that has 2 parts as well. You do need to pass both of the parts in order to move on. So I needed to pass all my classes and get my credential and pass all of those 3 tests in order to obtain my teaching credential, which I did, and that was to obtain a multiple subject teaching credential, which is what I hold with bilingual authorization. My work schedule, so I feel like one of the misconceptions of teaching is that our work schedule is the same as the school schedule, 8 to 3, and that's not always the case. As far as for me, I do like to get to campus at least a half hour before instruction starts, so about 7:30. I do try to arrive to school. And then this time I'm prepping for the day, making sure I have all my copies ready. If I need to grade, I grade a little bit. Anything that I need to do to get my day started. And then from 8 to 2:30 is my instructional time. And in that time, I do have a recess break with the students, and then we do have a lunch break as well. 2:30 is dismissal, so I dismiss students off to either their after-school program or they go home. But on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, I do have an extended day program that I do run in my classroom. And this is just for about 12 students that I house this for, and it's an extra hour for them to get more instruction on reading and literacy skills. So again, this is just Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday that I'm there for an extended hour. So by the time I'm dismissed with all of my students, it is about 4 o'clock. Usually I'll stay on campus for an extra half hour, so I give myself a half hour at the beginning of the day and then a half hour at the end of the day to just kind of make sure that I'm prepared and I have everything ready that I need to move on to either the next day or the next hour, whatever, if it's in the morning or in the afternoon. When I was 10 years old, I was in the 5th grade. I remember I had won this award. I'm not sure for what exactly, but this award allowed me to be a teacher's assistant for the day. So I got to choose which teacher I got to be an assistant for, and I chose to go back to my 2nd grade classroom. So I got to be an assistant for my 2nd grade teacher. Duties that she gave me as a 5th grader were very limited, but I remember I did get to check off some of their papers that they were doing as classwork. They were writing sentences, so I was checking for misspellings, if they had periods, were in the correct spots. So I was giving them feedback on it and what they needed to fix. And throughout that whole experience, I remember I just felt so much joy, and just seeing that light bulb go off in their head when they figured out what they did wrong or what they needed to fix. I just remember it being so much fun. And from that day forward, I knew that I wanted to be a teacher. I remember there was one moment that I almost steered off to a different path, but it didn't really pan out. It was more like a mere thought, maybe I'll go into speech pathology. But once I realized how much more schooling it was going to be and how much more expensive it was going to be rather than my other option, I decided to just go into my first option that I had since I was 10 years old, and I went into teaching. Well, I feel like that moment actually happened today. With my 6th grade students, they have to perform a presentation on history, and it's called the Walk Through Ancient Civilizations. They had about a month to prepare, and they had expert word cards, and they also had character cards. So they had to learn these cards and memorize them, or at least try to. And on the day of, they were to perform their cards based off of what the presenter would tell them. I do have one student in particular who I know is very shy and isn't the loudest when he speaks. And I was nervous to see if he was going to be able to perform, or if he was going to be too nervous, or what was going to happen. And then when it was his turn to go up and speak, he went up, and even though you couldn't really hear him very well, he still held the microphone up to his mask, and he read it as loud as he could and didn't give up the entire time. He just pushed through, and it wasn't just the fact that he went up, it was also the fact that his classmates, instead of, rolling their eyes or, oh, we can't hear you, they were quiet and they listened, and after they clapped for him. And that in itself just felt so rewarding, and it just made me feel good as a teacher, because seeing this child go from being so shy and being so quiet to going up there and taking that step to come out of his comfort zone, it was a really beautiful sight to see. If there's anybody out there that would like to pursue teaching, I think that one piece of advice that I would give you is to try to volunteer in a school at least once a week, and to try to see different grades if you can. I only say this because teaching is not for everybody, and it does require a lot of patience, and it does require a certain passion and love for children, no matter if you're going into teaching high school or if you're going to be teaching kindergarten. You need to have that compassion for children and be present. So if you were to volunteer in a classroom and you put yourself in that environment and you think that you can envision yourself up at the front of the room where the teacher is, then you're on the right path. I had a few mentors throughout my life, but the one that comes to mind at this moment is Melissa Hodgkin. She is a teacher at McCabe Elementary School. She was my mentor teacher when I was doing my student teaching. Student teaching is the last process that you need to complete in order to obtain your teaching credential. You are basically shadowing a teacher, your mentor teacher, and you slowly progress into performing your own lessons by yourself. You work with your mentor teacher on creating lesson plans. You work with her or him on the way that you need to present your lessons, different things that you need to work on. It's really an opportunity for you to take over the classroom yourself, but also having that mentor teacher and being able to borrow their class. So my mentor teacher was really, really great to me, and I remember falling in love with her class and being so excited when I was keeping in touch with her, when I would interview after for jobs, and after I was done with my student teaching and I started interviewing for jobs, when I got my first job, I was selected to teach third grade, which was really, really awesome because when I was in her classroom was a third grade class. So it was just really nice for me to go from student teaching with her third graders to get my own third graders. And I remember she was so excited for me, and even today I still keep in touch with her. So very, very supportive. Something I feel is important, and I feel like I'm probably just going to repeat what I was saying earlier about having the compassion for students. I think it's also important to not only have compassion for students, but I feel that people who are out there that are watching this, that maybe you're not thinking about going into teaching, but you're just watching this because you're interested, I think it's important for us to remember that we need to have compassion for teachers. Teachers are going through a lot, have been going through a lot since the pandemic. And even though we have so much on our plates and we've been having to try to play catch up with, distance learning and the learning loss that has become of that, we are still doing our best to try to give your child the environment that they need to be able to grow. And so going back to those of you who are going into teaching, you need to go into this job knowing that there are going to be critics, there are going to be people who point their finger at you, who tell you that they don't think you're doing a good job, but at the end of the day, you need to be confident in yourself and know that you are doing a good job, and hang on to your support system, whether that's mentors, friends, colleagues, family, whoever that may be. Hold on to them and don't forget that you're in this job for a reason.